The moment you step into the world of cinema, you are part of a team.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the LG Podcast. My name is Adam. I will be your host for today. I am a resident director here at LG, and today I am joined by my good friends Kyle and Ishan.
My name is Kyle. I'm a director, producer at Lucky Goat.
Hey, I'm V, or Prawns Piercing, and I'm a cinematographer and a director here at Lucky Goat.
Awesome. So jumping right into it, guys, I kind of want to touch on something that affects us fairly early on into our careers, right? Especially when we're going towards, like whether it's being a director, DOP, right? I feel like early on in our careers, a lot of us started off as videographers, and I kind of want to talk about the transition and the difference between actually being a videographer and being a director.
Transition, that's a good word.
It is, yeah.
Personally, I think that there are very two distinctions that make the difference between a videographer and a director, or DOP rather.
Talk about it.
The biggest thing for me is storytelling. The second biggest thing for me is organization. I feel like that the workflow as a videographer is innately different. As a videographer, I found myself, and still find myself, because I still do like little side gigs as a videographer. I feel like the big difference for me is capturing a scene and capturing a moment, as opposed to creating a moment.
Right. Yeah.
And that
Very
is
true.
a huge distinction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also, like you just said, you come into videography usually at the start of a long time career in the world of film. Most people start off being a one-man army, learning about how to capture, compose, work with lighting, have decent sound. And it's usually for event capture, businesses, weddings, things that are going on, and you have to capture what's going on, rather than the crafting and creating with a larger team and a larger task list to then give to a team to trust with.
I really like how you use the word army, because that's often how I try to explain people what makes our job so innately different than just like a guy with an A7 III and a gimbal. Especially being at the top of that like set hierarchy, right?
Yeah,
There's the producer, which I always compare to something more like a general, right?
Yeah.
And then, right, as a director, you are the captain, and then you are leading,
Yeah,
right?
Army is really a great
it's a
comparison, great
great
term.
metaphor to like how we run this ship,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And I find it's really interesting too when you get to work with, you get to see someone who's coming out of videography into working with a larger team. And we've seen that recently. I think up until 4 years ago, I was still in the videography mode, starting to work with teams, and even myself getting that experience of learning how to trust in this industry and with these kinds of workflows, learning how to give space for someone who does sound, give space for someone who looks at all the props and the art within a shot, give space to someone who understands lighting and how to convey that through story, rather than working with what you have and capturing it one-man band, right?
I think it's a matter of like control versus vision here, As a videographer, you're in control of every aspect that is happening in the shoot, whether it's camera, audio, editing, directing, there's so much going on, so much that you have to think about that you truly don't really get the opportunity and the time to step back and focus on that creative aspect, to focus on that vision, to focus on the intention
Really shaping
really,
at a
like we
more
said,
detailed
crafting
level.
this whole image that's happening, right? And from that, let's use an example. Like, say you're shooting a wedding, right? As a videographer, your goal here is to just capture what's happening, right? Make sure you capture the kiss, make sure you get the vows, capture the audio, whatever's going on, right? As a director, it's going to be how are you going to frame that kiss? What's the intention behind this scene? What does the lighting mean to this scene? How is it going to affect how it comes off to the audience, right? It's a big mindset change,
Even their dialogue writing and such.
Yeah,
But at the same time, there are opportunities for videographers to get a foot in the door for seeing how to direct people. Weddings, for example, too, when you're doing the capturing outside of the ceremony, let's say, and you have to direct people on where they're standing, how they're framed in an image with a group of people, what action they may be doing all together, and coordinating that and timing it for the shot. There are little tidbits that you start to find on how to work with people when you're then staging the actual scene rather than just staging the moment.
Yeah. I do think an important thing to bring up as well is making that transition from videography to directing, or to like larger scale, like cinema rather. I think that there has to be an element of your ego that is put aside, right? Personally, my transition, I only really started getting into film properly because I let myself do all the bitch work, if that makes sense. Like as a videographer,
What does that mean?
I'll explain. But as a videographer, I was like, okay, like I'm in charge because it's just me, maybe one other guy as an extra set of hands or something. But as a videographer, it's like I'm in charge. We're doing this, right? My transition into film, I started as a PA, dude. I was working with art teams mostly, right? I'm a cinematographer. I play with lights and stuff. But when I first started, I just absorbed. I was just a sponge. Obviously, I was still doing like my little videography gigs on the side. But the big transition for me into cinema is I worked for somebody who worked for somebody who worked for somebody.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like, again, that's what I mean by you have to put your ego aside and let yourself just be, like a grunt.
Yeah.
Right? If that makes sense.
A big component too, like you mentioned, the ladder of a hierarchy or of a team. A true difference is working alone and trusting yourself with multiple tasks versus knowing how to convey ideas and tasks to a team that you can let take over for you. So you can really focus on the tiny percentage that is only dedicated to directing talent, directing image, instead of trying to get everything right all at once under pressure, But at the same time, I think being a videographer introduces you to pressure that you will see on a larger scale when you get to larger sets. Working under pressure, working under time constraints, working with people who may not know how to act on camera, and coaching them through it because you need to get the stuff done by the end of the evening or the end of the day.
I definitely think that pressure aspect is such an important learning experience before that transition
Definitely.
ever even happens.
Like great example being the thing that we shot over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
4-man team more or less. And like, again, it's understanding that you are part of something bigger. Put your ego aside. This has to get done right now. If neither of us had any prior videography experience, I doubt that we would have been able to juggle that workload under that timeline and the amount of crew that we had.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
But keeping in mind, nobody on that set had a videographer mentality.
Exactly. We are
Yeah.
part of something bigger. And that's a very, very key thing. The moment you step into the world of cinema, you are part of a team. Whether you are a leader or whether you are a small fry in a big pond, right? Or small fish in a big pond, rather. My bad.
Small fry in a big basket.
Yeah. If you are the bag fry in the McDonald's bag.
Oh yeah,
You know?
this is so
Like-
great. You think it's done?
One
You're
that
like,
just
oh, there's
fell
one
out.
more.
Yeah,
one more.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like, you
But
need
real quick, just going off of that small fish in a big pond, like, yeah, the whole hierarchy thing, but I feel like everybody's role when it comes to the whole thing is just as important. right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
100% agree.
Mhm.
Right? Like, if we had a PA on that set, our lives would have been so much easier. Right? And it doesn't mean that because you are at the bottom of that food chain that, it means that you're unimportant. You're still part of the food chain, and the food chain can only exist if all the components are there.
Yeah.
Right?
And when,
Sorry,
continue.
but I think the big thing is understanding that, right? We've
Yeah.
all worked for those directors who are like, I don't care about the PA. I'm not going to learn this guy's name on set, right?
Oh,
But it's
yeah,
like,
100%.
I hate that, right? Like, again, we are a family for the duration of this shoot,
Mhm.
right? Understanding that is what makes the biggest difference between a videographer and a director, in my opinion.
And I know we're talking about videographer to director, but it director of any department at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When you do videography, you learn many surface level skill sets, and then you could really choose to hone in on one, whether you're a great editor, or you're a great director with cast, or you're a great writer, or you're a great person who works with light, or a great sound capture. All these elements is like you have a knowledge of them. You really get to choose to hone in on a very large scale.
Absolutely. In my case specifically, right, cinematography. You can give me, I could take my, personal camera, which is just a Canon R6 Mark I. I could take a lens and a gimbal and I could shoot this event and I'll do a really great job. Like it'll look great. Like everyone is happy at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really, really love about being a cinematographer, which is why I stepped away from videography, is being able to shape an emotion.
Yeah.
Right? Like my lens choices, right? My lens choice is going to tell a certain story about what I'm shooting.
Yeah.
The difference between going static or handheld, how big is the guy in frame, right? Like, is he taking up the whole frame? Am I shooting from under? Am I shooting from overhead?
Yeah.
All of these little minute details make such a key difference in storytelling.
Massive difference.
Right?
And a lot of the time, these are things that, when it comes to videography, are for the most part irrelevant.
Yeah.
You don't
get to
because
choose.
you have one shot to get that, or you have one chance to get that shot as a videographer, right? Weddings being a great example, or events, right? In general. That's not going to happen a second time. You have to be ready constantly.
Yeah.
It's a different skill set. And I don't want to
And both are equally as difficult.
Exactly.
100%.
Because I do hear videographers catching a lot of flack from cinema people, and I think that's bullshit.
It's unwarranted.
It's absolutely unwarranted, man. You are doing so much in such a little time, and you have one chance to do it properly. I think that there is a certain amount of respect that should be owed to videographers, or at least good videographers, because we know a lot of bad ones. But that is also one thing I want to make very clear. That's why I still do videography work.
And I think a very good way to put it too, on a larger scale, is the difference of capturing for coverage versus shaping what you're capturing.
Absolutely.
And having the ability to shape what you're capturing.
Absolutely. Right? Even lighting. Oh my God, lighting. I could talk all day about it.
Yeah.
But again, it goes to that same thing with lens choices. How am I going to light this, and how is this going to tell my story? Are we going for something naturalistic? Are we going for something, like whatever, cleaner, more corporate, right? All of these tiny details matter, and that is exactly why we have a hierarchy on set.
Yeah. And even the topic of pre-production is seldom seen in one-man videography work.
Absolutely.
Or even small team videography work.
And even the interaction between client, right? A lot of the time as a videography, it's client to videographer.
Yeah.
As a director,
a
lot of the time, that link
we were
doesn't
closer.
really...
We're at V7. We were closer in V1.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just my heart just palpitated from trauma, from PTSD.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But again, and that's also the thing, right? Like being able to rely, as a director, being able to rely on my producer to convey my ideas to client and explaining to the client, no, we need to do it this way because this is ultimately what you want.
And once again, not having to deal with that frees up a lot of the
external business pressure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is such a massive thing that you notice when you step into the directing space,
Yeah. You get to be an artist. Instead
But now,
of split your time with it.
Exactly. But now that we've laid out some of the key differences, I kind of want to talk about how one would go to actually making that transition, making that step from videography into directing, into DOP, whatever it might be.
Like I said, be the bitch on set. Depending on what you want to do within that realm, right? Keep in mind, I only picked up a camera with the intent to shoot less than 5 years ago. I'm probably 4 years old in this game. When I started videography, it was November of 2021. Okay. And I loved it. And I learned so much in such a little amount of time. But then I was okay, I don't care about art. I don't want to work in the art department. But I know people that had the opposite thing where they're I love being able to construct this set and make this set tell a story in itself. Right. And then me personally, again, it was cinematography. I'm a huge nerd, right? to me, playing with cameras is almost like playing with like Legos or
dude.
like, right, like
I
solving
love
like a
it,
really
yeah.
complex like Sudoku.
Yeah.
And when you're done the Sudoku, that like feeling of like,
satisfaction.
right?
Yeah.
And
Very true.
like for me, the big thing is just being able to focus on that one aspect, and that is my job. And for me, that
And just being able to
transition
do it
was
perfectly as well,
Exactly.
you know?
for me, that transition was, okay, I'm working as a PA, and I started at, working as a PA in art department. And from there, like, I just made sure that I wasn't useless. If I'm standing around, I would help out Genie. And I help out the grips. And then next time a grip hits me up and he's like, hey, I need an extra set of hands. You did a really good job last time. Are you free this day? Yeah, I am. And now I spend the next couple months just lugging combos, and it's hard work, right? And it's very like blue collar, if that makes sense. But again, like having someone tell me put the light here, and I ask why.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Now I know for next time. And then from grip, I go to gaffer, and as a gaffer, I'm now, in charge of a lot of these setups, and I'm now organizing a team of a few people. Like, yo,
Getting
put this
exposed
there.
to very expensive lighting that you wouldn't have otherwise known existed.
Exactly.
Or what the
right?
purpose for it is.
And that's the thing. Like, I put my ego aside. I am not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
You are smarter than me in this one specific, very specific field.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do.
One thing I want to bring up too is still finding ways to transition while you're doing videography work. And that could be as simple as next time you get a gig, you hire someone to exclusively worry about the camera work. And you know the mandate with the client, you know what you have to capture, and you're working with whatever the situation may be. Maybe it's a corporate reel that they want to capture for their business. And you get someone to exclusively worry about having their hand on your camera. That way you can start to learn how to coach someone or give them directions on what is needed. On a small scale, you start to learn how to speak downwards on the ladder to your team who's working towards the same goal as you.
And just off of that, like, for me, that's almost kind of how it started. Before I even wanted to direct or be a director, I'm like doing videography, I'm on these shoots, and I'm like, yo, I just need some extra hands, you know, like I would like to have people here to help me. And from there, you're kind of subconsciously making that mindset shift, right? You're kind of getting used to working with more people, and then the next thing you know, you're on a set with 10 plus people, 15 plus people, right?
It's even like if you do photography, having a photo assistant.
Yeah, it's
having a videographer assistant.
It's a night
or
and
a
day
second
difference.
cam, you know?
Yeah, I think genuinely, like, you should be trying to work with people that know more than you, right? You're not going to learn if you do it all yourself.
That too.
That's like, I'm very, very firm on that, right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, I can't learn math on my own. I need a teacher, right? You think that lighting science is any less complicated?
Very true. Very true.
Like, and that's, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's going back to that whole like jigsaw puzzle that is cinema. How down are you to put that puzzle together?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, I already have the completed one. Let's keep it that way. That's boring. Challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Do something new. Get out of your comfort zone every single time. If like, there is no growth without a certain level of discomfort.
Yeah, that's the most important part. And the thing that I've always, like, it's kind of almost my motto in a way, is get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Throw yourselves into the fire. Put yourselves in those situations that you're not used to, try something new. And I feel like that's a massive aspect of that transition, is you have to kind of write your own journey, right? Step into the industry, like you said, beat a bitch on set. Go through it, try different things. Because even before you're making that transition, you might have, you might in your mind, okay, I want to be a director. But maybe it turns out you might actually hate the job of being a director.
Yeah, very
right?
true.
So you have to throw yourself out there. You have to put yourself around these people, surround yourself with like-minded people, put yourself in these environments and get a feel for it, Write your own story, take the journey,
Dude, join
Yeah.
Facebook groups. YouTube Academy.
YouTube
Right?
Academy.
Like if you're like, I don't know
We're
anyone.
gonna mention it every episode. YouTube Academy.
YouTube Academy.
Every episode we're mentioning YouTube Academy and 24 frames per second.
Yes. This channel is also a part of YouTube Academy.
We are now
Yeah,
we are now YouTube academics.
We are YouTube teachers.
Is our gift where we
YouTube
realize
alumni.
that we're able to give.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's again big thing as well. Like that helped propel me. It also introduced me to like wonderful people like Gonzalo, who's like our in-house gaffer and
Amazing.
producer. Love that guy. We met him off of a Facebook group.
Yeah,
Like,
very
and
true.
that's the thing. If you don't know how to reach out to new people in your state or province or city, there will be a Facebook group dedicated to filmmakers.
Yep.
Work for them.
100%. 100%.
And quickly, just going off of what I was saying about the whole putting yourself into the environment thing and kind of actually seeing what it is you want to do, another aspect of that is that it's a lot more about practice than it is about permission. You do not need somebody to tell you that you are a director. You don't need your name written somewhere. Okay, he's a director. Just go out there, do it. A big part for me that I used to do, especially when I really started stepping more into the, the cinema area of things, right? I used to kind of shoot my own short cinematic videos, I would act in them myself, right? And that taught me so much about directing, being able to put all these different hats on. It gives you so much of a better understanding of all these different environments. And that's another thing that kind of annoys me sometimes, is when you have a director who doesn't exactly know what's going on in all these different departments.
Yeah.
So they kind of have very unrealistic expectations, because they don't actually know. They've never been in the shoes of their teammates, right?
Bring out the scarf.
Which we touched on last time. Exactly.
Bring out the scarf.
Exactly.
It's the scarf director.
It's the scarf director.
It's the scarf director.
Yeah.
It's very important to have that understanding, right? It's
A lot of it comes down to just knowing how to work with a team.
Yeah.
And you can start doing that if you're still in the mandates of videography. Simple
Interestingly enough, you know what I also really, really like to compare like cinema work to? Restaurant work.
Oh my.
I've never worked in a restaurant, but I've been around people.
You know what I mean.
I worked at a restaurant for 3 years
exactly
of my life.
what I
was a
mean.
waiter,
Everyone
dude.
has their place. Everyone has their job. And if one thing falls short, the whole engine stops
it's a machine.
working. Exactly.
It's a machine.
Also, in restaurants, do you ever have too many cooks in a kitchen?
Oh my goodness, dude.
Oh.
Bars.
Yo, it doesn't get much worse than that.
Yeah. In both worlds.
But that's the thing, right? Like, I want a head chef that is good at leading a team. Even if I'm a line cook, if my job is just being on the fryer, I need to know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I need to only do that one thing.
Right.
Right? But I also should be trained enough that if someone else starts fucking up,
You know how to jump in. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very well put.
Thank you. I appreciate
But,
that.
like I was saying earlier, mindset change is going to be the biggest thing here, as well as learning how to work in a team. But you kind of have to start asking yourself these questions, especially if you're looking to go into directing or going into being a DOP.
I think also if you want to be like the best DOP or the best director, the best whatever it is that you want to do within the realm of cinema, never forget that you are still a student.
Yeah.
There is
You're always learning.
so
Always.
much to learn. The game is constantly changing. Tech is constantly
Always.
changing.
Yeah.
Right? Be
You
on
have
top
to
of it. Like
adapt
submit
constantly.
to that. Right?
Yeah. If you take on a new project and you think, I don't have anything more to learn, I've got this, then you're already starting in the wrong place.
The one hat that you will always be wearing for your entire career is that student hat.
Yes. 100%.
But
The moment you stop learning, you fall behind.
You fall behind,
And even through teaching younger people or newer people, you are still going to learn through teaching.
Teaching others is a great way to learn. Yeah,
Look at
100%.
someone like Roger Deakins. The guy's 800 million years old, and he still did like like 1917 or like something like that. Like you know what I mean? Like
Innovative.
absolutely.
Very,
Exactly.
very, But
Yeah.
stepping back real quick to what I was saying about the mindset change is, rather than simply just getting the job done as a director, you have to start asking yourself, why are we doing this way? Why are we framing the shot this way? Why are we using this lens? Why is there a light over there? Is there a reason for this? Why is it lit this way? Why is my character saying this line of dialogue? Why is the frame being allowed to sit on them for this long, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
so many questions that you have to begin asking yourself. It's it's an entire mentality shift.
Yeah.
The
You know?
two most important questions or words, I think, as a director or as a leader of any department on set is why and how.
Why and how.
Also 10-1. You're so good at working with your team. So you're so adjusted to working with more people now. Even going to the bathroom, it's like, hey, I'm going to be gone for 30 seconds. And everyone may feel that if you don't tell them you're gone for 30
Absolutely.
seconds.
Yeah.
I've
Please.
been that guy. I've been that guy. I'm
just
guilty.
let us know, man.
It's an important
please.
thing. But
Just let someone know.
end of the day, you know, you could already start looking to work with more people. I think expanding your team, even on a small scale, is the best way to start transitioning to working with a larger team.
Closing thoughts. Join the Facebook group.
Just do
Don't
it.
be scared.
Take
Yeah.
the jump.
Be a PA.
Yeah.
Be a
Press
grip.
that join button.
Yeah,
Find-
man. Make some coffees
that
for
Facebook
people.
account.
Like,
Find your
Make
jumping.
that coffee, dude. Go to
Make
Tim's
it.
at 5 a.m.
yeah.
Yeah.
But most importantly, watch and learn.
Yeah.
If you're working under somebody, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Watch and learn. Let the professionals do the professional work. Your job is to absorb. Just be a student and watch our podcast.
Look
Watch
for
the
your
podcast.
look for your jumping off point. Yeah, it's as simple as grabbing an extra pair of hands and sharing a workload with someone, and then from there it just grows.
It only takes one step, you know?
Mhm.
But my closing thoughts is, dude, put your ego aside. Change your mindset. Learn to work in a team. Make that shift. Ask yourself these questions. And constantly just be learning and continue to learn. Wear that student hat no matter where you're at in your career. Just continue to learn.
And don't forget to smile.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Welcome to the YouTube Academy.
Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this episode of the LG Podcast. If you did enjoy that, feel free to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Let us know down in the comments if there are any subjects you would like us to touch on. And we will see you guys in the next one.